Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hi, welcome to Overdrive. You're watching the show with me, Sohini Dutt. Now, it's just so hot and really hot, and I'm not talking about a sports car, a sports bike, or even anything on wheels. This time, I'm actually talking about the weather. It looks like the mercury levels have risen to another level this May. And let's just figure out which car will keep you cool and calm this summer. You've guessed it right. We're talking about the ultimate AC test once again for this year.
It's just about 10:30, 38 degrees Celsius, and we are just at the beginning of the Mumbai summers. If you haven't guessed already, we are going to be attempting to calculate the time taken for these cabins to cool down. Welcome to the 2018 Overdrive AC Shootout. As the name suggests then, it aims at finding out which car has the best air conditioning system of them all. Last year, we conducted this test with 24 cars from varied segments and body styles. But this year, we are only concentrating on the significant new launches from every segment. In this test, we don't get to the spec of the compressor or how big the engine or the cabin is. Instead, we look for a hot day with temperatures soaring beyond 40 degrees Celsius, let the cabin temperature rise to 50 plus degrees Celsius, and then let the air conditioning do its thing to cool down the cabin without opening the doors or the windows. Pune-based Zen Microsystems are our preferred go-to experts for the tests that involve complex data logging and analysis.
We are soaking the car in hot summer for around 20 to 25 minutes. So the cabin temperature reaches around 52 degrees. Then we are switching on our equipments, and then we are running the car for around 20-25 minutes and with the full AC on, and we are monitoring the fall of temperatures in all cabin. To log this data, we are using VBox and the thermocouple sensors and thermocouple module.
We also noted and rated the blower speed at the vent and the blower sound levels at the center of the cabin. Low blower speeds can often help keep the cabin quiet, but can also affect the overall cooling performance. The sensors in various zones of the car and the difference between their readings also helped us rate how effective the circulation of the cabin was. The minimum temperature achieved, the rate of cooling, or the effectiveness of the circulation helped us finally rate the overall cooling of the cabin. Let us begin the test with the most awaited hatchback of the year, the Maruti Suzuki Swift. We had plenty of expectations from it, but it came back with lots of hits and misses. It happened to finish 9th overall, with its minimum cabin temperature denying to fall below 35 degrees Celsius. That result is on par with the readings of the Ignis from last year, but significantly hotter than those of the Baleno. The Swift impressed us with the circulation though, and a very quick rate of cooling despite the all-black cabin. Moving on to the sedans, we begin with the Hyundai Accent. Last year the Hyundais were the winners. This year we are yet to find the numbers.
So all temperatures are around 51.
Okay then, I'm gonna start. What update on the cooling?
Yeah, we are at 30-32
30-32.
and rear 34-36.
Okay,
Overall cabin is 31.9.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Though the Accent is one of the smallest offerings in the sub-4 meter sedan space, it has one of the roomiest cabins of the lot. Despite the presence of rear AC vents, a slow blower speed showed a temperature difference of over 3 degrees Celsius between the front and the rear zones. However, a low vent temperature of 11.4 degrees helped the Accent achieve the coolest cabin honors of this test.
The vent temperature is stabilized to 14.7.
Okay.
We are at 31. The rear passengers are at 35 and 33.
Okay.
So the overall cabin temperature is 36.
Despite the ventilated seats, one of the coolest vent temperatures and bright upholstery, the VERNA's overall cabin temperature refused to dip below 32.5 degrees Celsius. The presence of a sunroof was one of the key factors that kept the cabin warm for too long. The VERNA impressed us with excellent circulation though, and the ventilated seats meant that we were quite comfortable despite the relatively high cabin temperature. With your permission, I'm going to start the air conditioning.
We expect some good results in this car.
Yes, now the results, that's all there right on your laptop. We'll see if the numbers come out right.
The vent temperature is already gone below 20.
Below 20? Wow, this is faster than the Audi. The low vent temperature indicates that the car has a strong compressor. The all-black cabin, however, retained heat for a longer duration and significantly affected the cabin's rate of cooling. The large, seamless blowers incorporated in the simple design of the dashboard are silent and yet manage to blow out air at a high velocity, helping the Passat become the only car other than the Accent to reach a minimum cabin temperature of under 30 degrees Celsius. The brand new entrant in BMW's lineup has a spookily quiet cabin fit for a grand tourer. The air conditioning system of the 6 GT contributes to this effect with an equally quiet operation, and it does so with a low blower speed. So while the vent temperature is low and overall cabin temperature is pretty pleasant too, the 6 Series GT doesn't give you a blast of cold air that you might like after you enter a warm cabin. But then, this car also allows you to pre-cool the cabin using the magical function on the display key. So straight up, it took a little while to bring the blowers up to speed. It took its own sweet time literally to start the blowers. But yeah, now I can feel the airflow. Here, the instrumentation tells me it's 35.5 degrees outside. That's the overall global temperature. And the ambient temperature, like I said, is 47. Inside now, we are at how much?
33.
33 overall cabin temperature?
Yeah.
Now, this is not the first time that we are conducting this test. In fact, in last year's test, the Hyundai cars seemed to be the coolest and turned out on top. Now it's time for us to line up the SUVs and let's see how they fare in this sweltering challenge.
Now we have the latest entry into the compact SUV space, the Tata Nexon. Tata cars are known to be very good at cooling, and hopefully the Nexon will live up to those expectations as well. Blowers on in full swing. The Nexon wasn't as chilly at the vent, recording a temperature of a relatively high 16 degrees, but had a high blower speed that led to rapid cooling of the cabin. Even the circulation was one of the best, with the rear zone running only 1.45 degrees warmer than the front. For a nuclear family that loves traveling together then, the Nexon has one of the best air conditioning systems of this segment, pipping the scores of the similarly sized Maruti Suzuki Vitara Brezza from last year's tests. Next up, Renault Captur. It's so hot right now, the cabin, I can't even hold the steering wheel. The Renault Captur has a cabin that looks and feels airy thanks to the large glass house and the bright upholstery. But the latter seem to be one of the deterrents to the car's cooling performance. So something I've noticed with this particular car, Ashish, is that every time you accelerate hard, it does cut off the compressor like most other cars, other new cars do. But this particular car takes a little while to turn the compressor back on because for almost 5 to 10 seconds you can feel that there is no cool air coming out. It also has one of the slowest blower speeds of this test. So while it did not take too long to reach its minimum recorded cabin temperature, the circulation and the overall cooling wasn't up to the mark, and that shows in the final results. This is the Jeep Compass?
So now the vent temperatures are around 18 degrees.
Okay, that's good.
The front passenger is around 31, 32 and the rear are also at 31, 32.
Okay.
So the circulation is quite good.
Circulation is quite good. It does have rear AC vents as well. It has very big, fairly big front AC vents as well. So even though the cabin is big, the cooling rates are quite good. The circulation is quite good. The Jeep Compass was quite a bit of a surprise for us. Despite having a relatively high vent temperature of 14.7 degrees, a slow blower speed and mediocre circulation efficiency, the Compass achieved a better cooling performance than most of the SUVs from last year's test by a big margin. The compact cabin, absence of a sunroof, a narrow glass house and the use of fabric upholstery play an important role in this impressive performance. While the Volkswagen Passat was one of the best performers amongst the sedans, the Tiguan didn't quite rise up to the top of the charts within the SUVs.
So this is the hottest cabin temperature we are facing is around 54 degrees.
54 degrees, dark cabin, so of course it's very hot. So let's begin the test.
Yeah.
Max AC. Which was a pity considering it has one of the best circulation score of the test, fastest rate of cooling and a higher blower speed without being too noisy. What marred its performance was a high vent temperature and the humongous panoramic roof that wouldn't let the overall cabin temperature fall below 32 degrees in the glaring overhead sun. The Audi Q5 is an impressive car in more ways than one, and the air conditioning performance of the car was one of the best that we have witnessed amongst luxury crossovers and SUVs, pipping even the Volvo XC90 that we tested last year.
Vent temperature already reached 24.
Oh, I think this is one of the quickest. Let's just hope it also reflects in the overall cabin temperature.
Yes.
Nice bright upholstery in here, but you also have this big panoramic roof, and we've already seen in the Tiguan as well with the big panoramic roof, cooling does take a lot of time. The mix of materials did retain heat for longer, affecting the time taken in cooling the cabin. However, simple yet effectively designed lowers and a low vent temperature made the cabin quite a pleasant place to be in. But where does it stack up in the final results? Let's take a look at the final score sheet.
If you're old school and you want a detailed report, then all you have to do is pick up the latest issue of the OVERDRIVE magazine to skim through the ultimate AC test. Now, it's been a busy week for motorcycle as well as car manufacturers, so check out the hottest launches from this week. In a first of its kind launch, Ducati India has brought in the 2018 Monster 821 via Twitter at 9.51 lakh rupees ex-showroom. This motorcycle now meets the BS6 emission norms and gets a host of new accessories and features that will leave enthusiasts quite satiated. Moving on to the higher spectrum, Polaris-owned Indian Motorcycles has launched one of the most expensive motorcycles in India, the Roadmaster Elite, at 47 lakh rupees ex-showroom. There's been no attempt to change the heart of the motorcycle. It runs on the same Thunderstroke 111 engine and gets heated seats and grips, electrically adjustable windscreen, cruise control, navigation and remote locking saddlebags as standard. Also a 7-inch touchscreen infotainment system and an inbuilt 300-watt audio system with speakers in the fairing, trunk and saddlebags add to the leisure factor. Mercedes India has launched its most powerful E-Class ever made, the AMG E63S at BIC earlier this week at a whopping 1.5 crore rupees. This puts the car directly in competition with its German rival, the BMW M5. It's a 4-litre V8 beast that sprints from 0 to 100 km per hour in 3.4 seconds. This Super Saloon also comes with a race mode that allows you to select drift mode. You also get launch control to bump up acceleration from standstill.
round up the hottest launches from this week, BMW India launched its biggest Mini yet, the Countryman, at 34.9 lakh rupees for the 2-litre petrol and 37.4 lakh rupees for the 2-litre diesel variant. The Countryman now sports an SUV-ish stance and gets a host of driver aids. You can read more about these launches on the OVERDRIVE website or on CNBC TV18.com.
Now, Suzuki has replaced the GSR 750 with the GSX S750. And Shumi not only flew to the capital just to attend the launch, but also rode the motorcycle at the BIC racetrack at Greater Noida. He seemed mighty impressed on riding this motorcycle, and here's why.
If you're a motorcycle enthusiast graduating to your first big bike, the usual place to start would be the Kawasaki 650s or something like the Triumph Street Twin. But if you're going to take a slightly more ambitious leap, where you'll come to is this space, the Sport Naked segment, prices between 7 to 9 lakh rupees. That's where the good motorcycles are. You've got the Kawasaki Z900, you've got the Triumph Street Triple S, and now entering the space is another Japanese inline 4. That would be the GSX S750. We saw it at the Auto Expo, but today we're at the Budh International Circuit and we're getting our first taste of Suzuki's entry into the Sport Naked class. This is the GSX S750. The Suzuki S750 replaces the old GSR 750 and takes several leaves from the same playbook that the GSX S1000 uses. The most obvious one, naturally, is the styling. You can immediately see the aggressive form that concentrates on the tank and engine area, while the rear subframe is a much smaller visual element. The headlight is also similar in nature, but I think it looks neater and better than the bigger GSX S. But there is a subtle difference between the bombastic 145 PS bigger brother and this 114 PS Suzuki. Suzuki's understood the formula really well. So the S1000 engine was based on the K5R1000, the S750 is based on the K5R750, and that means 2 or 3 things. One, it's detuned, so it's got more torque than the K5R750. The throttle, hardly any vibration at all. It's a smooth motor, and whenever you roll on the gas, it produces the most glorious inline 4 howl you'll ever hear of a stock exhaust. Suzuki does have updates to the old motor, naturally. New injectors, new ventilation holes to cut pumping losses, and other changes boost power to 114 PS and torque to 81 Nm, both higher than the GSR 750. And the result is a beautiful power curve that is extremely linear and very comfortable to use for new and skilled riders alike. The presence of Suzuki's amazingly silent traction control with 3 modes makes the motorcycle very easy to ride fast no matter your skill level. And that's not happen chance either. Suzuki designed it to be an utterly predictable and trustworthy motorcycle, and when you go into the corners here at the BIC, I think that describes it almost perfectly. So they've got custom-made Bridgestone S21s. They are specifically made for this motorcycle. That, the frame, the suspension, it just comes together so nicely. You can exactly tell what the bike will do when you lean it into a corner. Your knee goes down predictably, and I think the only thing I would change is the size of the feelers. This motorcycle has ridiculously long peg feelers. So your knee is down and your pegs are scraping, and it's not a pleasant feeling, but I think it's an easy fix, and the rest of the motorcycle is just spot on. To do this, Suzuki created a new frame. It used a twin spar front with tubular elements and a new swing arm, and it also brought new KYB suspension at the front and a new link-type rear monoshock, both of which are preload adjustable. At the racetrack, the suspension felt supple enough as well as absorbent enough. We will see, of course, how real-world performance works later. The brakes are really nice too. The 310mm Nissin dual discs have ABS as well as a lovely bite as standard. Not much effort is required to slow this bike down. And so, does it require effort at all? Well, actually, it does. You only ever feel the weight of the GSX S750 in side-to-side transitions, and at 213 kilos at the curb without the Indian sari guard and front number plate attachment, this is the heaviest bike in the class, roughly 3 kilos more than the Kawasaki Z900. But the nice thing about the GSX S750 is that its nature and feel are more important than its specification. This is a genuinely nice, extremely likeable motorcycle, and at Rs 7.45 lakh ex-showroom Delhi, it is priced well too. I can see a hard-fought comparison test coming to OVERDRIVE soon, but that is a story in our near future. For now, let's return to the Suzuki.
So that is a sweetheart. Riding it at BIC, it's obvious that it is the three things that a motorcycle for new riders needs to be. It's sweet, it's predictable, and it's trustworthy, and those are three solid reasons to buy this. However, at the BIC, at a track this size, even the 750 feels a little bit quiet, and I really want to see what it does in the real world, where the world itself isn't quiet. Also, there it will have to compete with the Kawasaki Z900 and the Triumph Street Triple S, and I think that's going to be a solid comparison as well. But with a price 7.45 lakh rupees ex-showroom Delhi, I think it's got all the tools it needs to show them a good time.
Well, we'd like to hear your feedback, comments as well as suggestions on this week's show, especially the ultimate AC test, and we'd also like you to drop in a word and tell us what other comparison tests as well as any other different type of test that you would like us to conduct on this show. Time then for us to wrap up this week's edition of Overdrive, but we'll see you next week. Until then, goodbye and many thanks for watching.